As it is written, the kingdom is within us. Come together and discuss the issues within the kingdom. Speak your peace. Speak the truth. For the kingdom is at hand. Kingdom Conversations.
Peace and blessings, peace and blessings, peace and blessings to the whole house, to the group of people that have kicked up such a fuss and such a stir on the earth. They have everybody uptight. Everybody on the earth is uptight. Ukraine and Russia's uptight. The fuse over there and the false pretenders is uptight with the Arabs. And you know who that's because of? It's because of the kingdom of the Israelites. Peace and blessings to you all. Father, we thank you once again for another chance to talk with our people and have a conversation with them about something. And what we're going to be covering, all praises to the Father. Thank you, Father, for giving us the internet so that we can get into these books and get into these documents and get into the history of how we got into this condition. But more importantly, how are you going to get us out of this condition? And the prescription that you gave us, Father, and I thank you for it, is you gave us your word. You gave us the books, the ones that we know to read, the ones that we've been told not to read, and even the one that's been hidden from us that talk about us this day. Father, we thank you. We also thank you for the Spirit, aka the Ruach HaKodesh. Without that Spirit, all of you would still be in Christianity or Buddhism or Satanism or atheism or whatever ism you want to come up with. You would be in an ism. And you should be right now thanking the Ruach that the Ruach brought you out of your mental condition, the ill mental state that you were in. Most of you were in the ill mental state of Christianity. Some of you are still holding on to the tenets of Christianity, talking about you a Christian light. What is a Christian light, brother? See, a Christian light is a Christian who pretending to be an Israelite. You're a false pretender. If you're going to take on the culture, ask the Ruach to tell you, Ruach HaKadosh, please help me, Father. Give me the spirits of, remove the spirit of error so I can fully put on my culture 100% and be the person that you want me to be this hour. We also thank the Ruach, thank Mashiach. Thank you, brother. Thank you, big bro. Big bro Mashiach. What did Mashiach do? Banya always calls him, as the book says, the propitiation of our sin, for our sins. The one who was the book. The one who said he came in the full volume of the book. The one and only. Sent by none others than the creator of everything. Hello, fam. It's good to see you all. Thank you for joining in with us. And before we get started, I want you to introduce the sister Christine Laster. Christine, go ahead and greet the fam.
Peace and blessings, everyone. Shalom. I'm glad to be here again with you all to have this on-time discussion.
And family, before I get started, we're having a little bit of technical difficulty. So if you hear us stepping over each other, the panel guests, it's because we're having technical difficulties. We heard that we were in the last presentation that we had, and we're going to continue to have those. And just know that if anyone's talking over someone, it's only by accident. It's not done by design, because how we operate is decency and order according to what the book says. And if we're not operating according to the book, you should say, hey, salt of the earth, shut your channel down. Big mouth, brother. See, get off the internet, because you're not doing according to what the book says. And that's how we should be operating this hour. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and greet the family that showed up, that's in the chat. And family in the chat, you guys know the drill and the routine. Greet everybody that comes in, especially the new people that come in. Make sure you greet them and say shalom to them and peace to them. You might be able to make their day by doing that. We don't know what people are going through, and a smiling face and a good shalom and a peace and blessings might uplift someone's spirit this hour. So make sure that you guys are doing that. So I'm going to start from the top and work down. My good brother, Darnell Blackshear, peace and blessings, brother. It's good to see you as usual. Hope the Father's been blessing you. Cam 2 player, where have you been? Long lost. Cam 2 player. You should say, brother C, where you been, sir? Cam 2 player is a blessing. Blessing to see you. Thanks for joining in. All praises to the Father. Lady J, love and kindness. Peace and blessings, sis. Peace and blessings to you. Hope you are well. Hope the Father's been keeping you. My good sister Darlene Franklin, shalom, sis. Hope all is well with you. Hope the Father's been keeping you. And prayers up for Darlene Franklin and her family, her children, and whatever the Father's got going on with them. We got your email, sis, and you lift it up in prayer. Family in the chat, make sure that you guys lift up Darlene Franklin and her family. Lift them up and say some prayers for her and her family. We all need prayer. Make sure that you lift the sister up in prayer. Good Sister Wise Society, peace and blessings, sis. On the panel, hope you're well. Kwame Yasharan, peace and blessings. Shalom. Shalom to you. Peace and blessings to you. Hope you're well and that the Father's been keeping you. Heavy arms. Peace and blessings to you. That sound like a warrior king name right there. Like that name. Peace and blessings to you. Hope you are well. YKBY. Yah's family whole, heaven high. YHWH, beginning and end. The Father, beginning and end. The Father is the beginning. It's funny how we did that series. It's funny how these eclipses make the Alpha and the Tav over the United States. Isn't that something? The Father is not a joke. The Father is not a false pretender that he should play and fool around with, man. But I will say this: he does have a sense of humor. Well, what do you mean by that? He has a sense of humor, brother. See, well, he told the book, and I say he told the book because whatever he told man to write down, man wrote it according to what they saw and what they heard and what they were told to write. But yeah, the father's got a sense of humor because he calls this time Jacob's trouble. But the punchline is Jacob is not trouble. Jacob is coming out of trouble. That sounds like that's a what do they call that? An oxymoron or a paradox or a riddle? He said that Jesus called Jacob's trouble, and yet Jacob is coming out of trouble. That means that Psalm 83 and the whole earth is in trouble. So I'm gonna keep on going down the line and greet the family. Easy Shalom. Shalom, peace and blessings to you, bro. Hope you are well, my good brother E.T. Eric, how you doing, brother? Hope you're well. Hope the Father's been keeping you and hope you are blessed and refreshed this day and this hour. Bye, y'all. What's good, brother? Good to see you, man. Hope you've been well. Hope you've been, if you guys haven't gone to the brother's channel, brother has some good teaching. You may want to chime in and listen to his teachings that he has and support the brother. Bye, y'all. You put your link in the chat and we'll put it up and hopefully the family will go through and support you. And as you guys know, us here at Salt of the Earth, there is no haterism and haterade towards our family. We don't have any problem putting up another channel, having another brother from another channel come on to speak or any of that. Because we believe that in this particular time and in this hour, it's good to link up with family. Whether they have a bigger channel or small channel or not, that's irrelevant. Because everybody's office is not to put up a YouTube. Everybody's office, based on the talents that the Father has given us, is not the same. My office is not the same as Big Judah's. Or as Salt of the Earth. Salt of the Earth is called Salt of the Earth Productions. It's called that for a reason. But I was going to say, our office isn't the same as Big Judah, but we love him. And we're not going to disparage him or Big Levi or any of the other Israelite channels. Why? Because we operate on a code. If we have dogma or differences in terms of how we interpret and see things, guess who's going to straighten it out? It's going to get straightened out. Doesn't mean that we need to give our enemies cannon fodder so that we can be speaking against each other so that they can take that and use that and say, see, this is the disagreement that they have amongst themselves. Mind you, that you can probably put the disagreements that we have on probably 2, maybe 3 or 4 hands, maybe 5, 10 at best. But we're not like Christianity, where you've got 50,000 different disagreements. Yeah, he always riding on Christianity every chance I get. Let me see. Son of Jacob, hey, peace and blessings, bro. Young brother, hope you're well. Hope the Father's been keeping you. Charles Bird, shalom, brother. Peace and blessings to you. Hope you are well. Hope the Father's been blessing and keeping you. Let me keep going down. Unity in our community. That's right. I like how that sounds. That sounds excellent. So it looks like we covered everybody. Make sure everybody shalom, everybody in the chat, especially our new people that you see coming in. Make sure you shalom them, because guess what? When we see each other face to face, we're going to be happy when that time comes. And so get in the habit of doing that now. I tell you guys that all the time. If you're working around the heathen and you see the heathen pop up, you're going to be all smiles and grins from ear to ear. But then when you see your brother or sister, the smile turns into a frown. We need to stop doing that, fam. We need to start loving on ourselves first. Person that you see in the mirror, you love on them first. And then just know that you're a reflection of your ancestors. Just know that you're a reflection of everybody in the chat and their ancestors. We are all one big dysfunctional family that's becoming functional. So I've greeted the family. Sis, what we're going to do is, as I see you guys come in and you shalom me like C did. Shalom, peace and blessings, C. As you guys come in, I will definitely shalom you. Yeah, peace and blessings, sister. Hope you are well. Make sure you shalom me and shalom the family, and I'll make sure to put you up because it's important. It's important that we acknowledge the folks in the chat. Why is that important? Because the chat, next to the information that's given, the chat is the most important. Because why? If I call a precept, or if we're talking about a specific topic or subject, the chat typically will call out precepts that's appropriate. And so I always tell you all, go back when you have your family look at this, have them turn on the chat and look at the conversation in the chat, because the conversation in the chat is as equally as important as the information that's coming out, because you guys do an excellent, wonderful job of that. And I truly appreciate it. So, sis, so we're going to talk about um, how did the U.S. government assist the European settlements? Now, before I'm going to let my sister get started, and she jumped off for a second, so I'll continue to ad lib until she jumps on. But before I do that, I do want to say that we have the same situation going over and over and over again when it comes to us and when it comes to them. Now, when this nation was formed, it was formed originally, and when I say nation, I'm not talking about the land. I'm talking about the nation currently in its current form, known as the United Snakes of America. Oh, I'm sorry, the United States of America. Sorry about that, fam. I did not do that on purpose. Psych, I did do it on purpose because it's a snake, evil nation that's done evil and hurt to the Israelites. Has it done evil and hurt to other people? Yes, it has. Am I concerned about the other people? No, I am not. Why is that? Because I'm only concerned about our people and our condition and our plight. Nobody else will stand up and talk for us. We have to do it ourselves. Nobody else will stand on a soapbox and talk pleasantries for our people, build up our people. It has to be us and only us. So when we talk about shalom, sis, good to have you back, Wise Society. Shalom up next. Peace and blessings to you. Hope you are well. So now, what I was gonna say was, and I'm gonna let the sister take over. We had something happen recently where we talk about European settlers or European settlements, and that happened recently when Russia was bombing the hell out of Ukraine and they airlifted. Notice who they airlifted though. They airlifted Azov Regiment and Reich Sector. And you can look up who y'all know I talk about these two groups all the time. These are two Ukrainian white supremacist groups that are fighting side by side with the rest of the Ukrainians for their quote land. Now they brought them people over here, enemy combatants, probably 500,000 now are here now, and those are your enemy combatants. They're not your friend. They may live next door to you. They may live across the street from you, but make no mistake about it, they're not your friends. They hate you, but that's fine. We're used to that. But just know that you have a new set of enemies. Now, this is a classic example of the United States with the pacts and the agreements and the treaties that they have with the rest of Europe allows them to take on the burden, put these people in nice homes, give these people great jobs and or money and or opportunities that Yo Black Bleep wouldn't get. And I said bleep because you know what I was going to say, right? But I'm not going to say that, but I may slip up and say it. But you all know what I mean, right? So, sis, I'm going to let you take over and we're going to get into the conversation about how the U.S. government assists the European settlements. Now, why is this important? This is going to be important because if you haven't studied history, and we like to think that we do a good job of that, but we all have gaps. So if you like to study history, that's correct, son of Jacob, absolutely correct. If you like to study history and you like historic information, it's good to go back and look at these things because it'll help frame your mind as far as what's happening today and why these things are happening the way that they are. These things that we're seeing aren't by accident. Number one, you all should be looking forward to them, and you all should be able to, our people should be able to forecast and look at things that are happening and say, well, I understand that to be that to be in this book. I understand that to be part of this prophecy, or maybe it's part of that prophecy. But what the sister's going to do today is she's going to show you from a historical perspective what they set up, and that what they set up aforetime, they still use those same plans today. So, sis, 20 minutes in, I'm gonna let you have it. And if we don't finish it in one segment, we're gonna have another one and another one until we get through all this information. Now, last point I'm gonna make, what I want you all to do is share this information. Share this information with your family, because there's stuff inside of our DNA that this may explain some of the reasons why we move and operate the way that we do. Even though the Father is wakened, the dry bones have stood up. We know that. The muscles have come on the dry bones already. Now the army has stood up. The muscles are going on. Now we need a heart, we need a brain, we need the skin, we need the eyes, but the muscles are already on. Just imagine us all standing up as an army. We've got our skeletal system, we've got our muscles on, and we need to have our nervous system put on. Then we need a heart to be installed in us. Then we need a brain to be installed. Then we need our skin. We'll need our eyes, and definitely our spirit and life need to be breathed into us. The spirit of the Father need to be breathed into us, according to what the book says. So I'm gonna give it over to the sis, and she's gonna rock out and put your questions in the chat as she's moving forward. And more than likely, we like to have things interactive. So chat, y'all get busy like you normally do. Sister, go ahead and take over.
I appreciate that introduction, and I want to add on to what you said, Brother C, to the family to know Proverbs 22:3 is a reminder that the prudent sees danger and takes refuge, but the simpleton, or the simple-minded person, keeps going and pays the penalty or suffers for it, right? And so we understand that even though in the historical context, things are very ugly with regards to empirical rule, domination, the USA, European settlements, land acquisition. We're going to be going through all that stuff, right? How did this all come to form the US? But understanding that historical context helps us to avoid danger, and not continue to be simple and fall for what I call the okie doke, right? And so we don't have to suffer for not knowing the patterns and the practices and the ways that these systems of rule and empirical rule, colonization, have been exacted through structures and systems of code, right? And so it is my hope that as I guide through these lessons, you begin to see the patterns and avoid the practices, and avoid them today and going forward, right? That as we reestablish what saith the Most High, that we understand what to avoid and what to, run to, and so the information that I will be sharing is information that I am reviewing from searches and research and inquiry and understanding of laws, policies, and codes and history for over a period of 10 years. So I don't expect that, everybody is going to gain that insight in a day. But what I do hope is that I somehow impart to you knowledge that you will go back and do further research about, so you'll fully understand, and then understand what it is to avoid, and what it is to embrace. So today we're going to actually start. And brother, can you hear me? If I could just get confirmation that you can hear me, then I'll keep going.
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Before I let you go all the way, I just want to shalom two people that just came in. Carolyn Gannon, peace and blessings to you. Hope you are well. And Sharper Rome 1, peace and blessings to you. Hope you're well. So sis, it's all yours. We hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great. And I know that oftentimes we have these discussions, and I'm asking, can you hear me? And I know Brother C gave a disclaimer at the beginning that there's some tech issues, and so I ask that you guys will continue to lift me up in prayer, so that I can continue to provide this information without interruption. So we won't give any place, authority, or attention to Hasatan. All right, let me start with sharing. Okay, so I have on the screen what I would like to start with, and I will wait for that to load. Can you see that? Yeah. Okay. So if all of you guys are able to see that and read it, can you please put a 1 in the chat so that I can know if I need to make it bigger or smaller? Or if it's just right. 1, if you can see it and it's fine to your eyes. All right.
Looks good.
All right. So here we have Psalm 11. I want to start with Psalm 11 in the New King James Version. And as you can see, I'm just going to read it straight off of the Blue Letter Bible page. To the chief musician, the Psalm of David. In the Lord I put my trust. How can you say to my soul, flee as a bird to your mountain? For look, the wicked bend their bow. They make ready their arrow on the string, that they may shoot secretly at the upright in heart. If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes behold. His eyelids test the sons of men. The Lord tests the righteous, but the wicked and the one who loves violence, his soul hates. Upon the wicked, he will rain coals, fire and brimstone, and a burning wind shall be the portion of their cup. For the Lord is righteous. He loves righteousness, and his countenance beholds the upright. And so I want to really focus in on this verse right here, okay, where we see Psalm 11:3. And if you've watched in the past, I've talked about this a lot. If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? And I want to start to look at what is being said if we look at the inflected root in transliteration. Okay, so here we have the foundations. What are we talking about when we're talking about the foundations? Okay. All right. So you see the word shatah, and that is foundation, support, stay, right? Figuratively, political or moral support, foundation, purpose. So then we're going to go down to find out a little bit more. And we see here, right here, and I hope that you guys can see that I've highlighted that. Foundation, stay of society, okay? And then you have the figurative, established usages, laws, etc. So I wanted to talk about how kingdoms, whether they be righteous, like our kingdom is righteous, or a wicked, fraudulently established kingdom, understand that they have to create a foundation or stay, and for that to establish or be established by laws. So it doesn't matter what system you or kingdom or structure that you look at that establishes itself for rulership, it's going to make sure that at the foundation, those ways of society, those laws that actually tell society how to function, which I call a system of codification, the U.S. calls the U.S. Constitution, are going to be embedded from the foundation or the creation of that system, institution, or kingdom, right? So I wanted to start there. And then I wanted to look at the word kingdom, looking at the word kingdom. So I have to reshare my screen. Give me 1 second. All right. So when we're talking about the US, most people do not look at it as an extension to the British monarchy. Most people don't even think about the USA as an extension to Europe, right? But it is. And I'm going to show you how they established their kingdom here. All right. And so when we look at the word kingdom, we see the etymology right here. And in Old English is Sainingdom, which is a cognate with Old Saxon cunningdom, Middle Dutch conningdom. And then you start to see Old Norse, again, the usual Old English. And then you see even a element included from the word Reichstag, or even if you look further down, that word to be Reich. Okay, Reich. So you've heard that word Reich before, and with regards to Germany, right? So I wanted you guys to understand the word etymology usage for kingdom. If you were to go and look this word up in the dictionary or online etymology dictionary, like usually you see what I'm using here, you will be able to see the way that this word was formed and what it breaks down to mean. And they also include kingdom in the next world hereafter. This usage started 1785, originally slang. It's from the Lord's Prayer, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Now, this is not exactly the way that we're going to be looking at it in a biblical perspective, but when you're hearing the word kingdom, this is what the definition is. This is where the word came from in English, and you see that it has those German components, and one of them being first element, right. Okay. And so I want to go from this page to, well, actually, yes, I wanted to go down here. So you see two components of the word. King as in a ruler, and dumb as in a statute or judgment. Okay, so again, we see the codification is attached to the foundation. The statute is attached to the province, right? If you're looking at, what is she talking about? Right here. Okay, right here. Province, state, condition, quality, statute, judgment. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there, Brother C, to make sure that that's clearly understood before I move on to the Strong's Concordance on the word kingdom.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the family. Do you all understand what we just looked at in terms of the definition of kingdom and how that applies? Put a 1 up if you understand that definition, because this is going to be the foundation of our understanding. The part that I thought was interesting was the right.
Yes.
The third right. Y'all. You, everybody here, we interfacing with, whether you know it or not, we interfacing with the 4th / the 5th right, and they still in effect. The 4th right and the 5th right is still in effect. So everybody put 1s up if you understand the definition. And sis, I'm gonna let you go back and have it. It looks like we got a few 1s in there, so it looks like they got it.
Right, and I like how Phantom Warrior says dominion and laws, right? And so what I am trying to establish is that every kingdom, call it, what you want to, that has been trying to establish itself upon the earth, has been looking for that and has a set of laws, dominion or rulership and laws, right? And so you don't have it, even if it's not codified, like the Western imperialism has all to do with a system of codification. Even if you don't have a set of standard laws, there's still kingdoms that have been established, or clans, tribes, whatever you want to call it, through oral practices and patterns. Okay, particularly we have to understand this codification, and I know I say it all the time, but if you look at the way that America has jurisdiction over everything you do, over everything you say, over where you can move around to, and how you can function in society, you have to understand that that dominion is through a system of code, codification, laws, right? Legal jurisprudence. Okay. So we're going to stop sharing on that one. And I want to take us back to, let's see, is this the one right here? Sorry. Okay, so right now I have brought up the lexicon again. And I want to look at the word malakah. Okay, malakah, which talk, if you see on the right, I want to highlight this really quick. If you see on the right, the search results for kingdom in the Old Testament utilize this word. And then we're going to go to the way that it is presented in the New Testament through the Greek translation. Okay, so you see all the books right here where the word is noted and how many times throughout those chapters on the right here. Okay, and I want to make sure that I explain that, because there may be some people that are viewing and they don't have an understanding of what it is that we're looking at when we're looking at these word etymologies and this lexicon and this Strong's Concordance, and I don't want those people to miss the understanding of what's happening. All right, and so as you can see right here, the outline of biblical usage: kingdom, dominion, reign, sovereignty, right here. Dominion, reign, malakah, dominion. So we see through the legend right here, Strong's definitions legend, dominion, abstractly the estate, rule, or concretely the country, realm, kingdoms, kings, reign, royal, right? And so with that being said, you can see all of the scriptures that you can look this word up, like I said, was on the right, and the various usages of the word. So if you don't know, word etymology, some often change with usage and over time. So it's very important to look up the word etymology and the usages, how that word has been used. There are some words that we may use in the English language today that are not as popular or weren't used in the same way as they were used 100 years ago, right? They may have changed meaning and usage, okay? So it's important to look up the word etymology, find the origins of the words, and see how those words were formed. And I think that we as a people do that very well. We want to know, what is it that people are actually saying to us, right? And so as you can see, royal cities, royal seed, children, reign, right? All of those things are here when we're talking about the sovereignty of the Most High and his children and a kingdom, okay? Now, if we go over to the other usage, if you were to go and type into Blue Letter Bible, like I did, the word kingdom, you'll see the New Testament usages as well. And I don't really like separating it. You know, we have this thing that people talk about 66 books. We're not those people here, Brother C. And so, you know, with the terminology that I'm saying, the New Testament and the Old Testament, it's just because that's what's understood, right? So I'll pause real quick in case you want to say something about that.
Nope, the family should know where we stand on that. The 66 books are great. Great breadcrumbs are in that. Great information is in that. And I'll say this about the 66. There's enough in the 66 where it'll take all of Israel to code really everything that's there. Now, there are all the other books. We go into the other books, the apocryphal books. We go into those, the books that the Vatican and the evil wizards of Catholicism banned. We go into all of those books. We even go into some of the books outside of what you would call canon or non-canon, which would be Philo, Josephus, and a bunch of others. So we're open to the fact that all of these writings are writings from our people. And from a historical perspective, they're all good for us to, not just a historical perspective, but just from a perspective in general, as far as being able to help us interpret.
So as you can see right here, you have the Greek transliteration of the word kingdom, and it is referred to as basileia. Okay. So when we're looking at the way that that is defined, we go down here and you see royal power, kingship, dominion, rule, like Phantom Warrior had said earlier, dominion and laws, right? Not to be confused with an actual kingdom. I find that definition interesting, but rather the right or authority to rule over a kingdom, of the royal power of Yeshua as the triumphant Messiah, of the royal power and dignity conferred on Christians. So you see some changes and the usage of the word kingdom appear. And you see those changes as we go from the old quote unquote testament and Hebrew meaning and the new quote unquote testament and Greek transliteration. Okay. And so I just wanted you to be able to see what the word kingdom is identified as in scripture, and to be able to understand how to search also the concordance and find out what is being said to you throughout scripture. All right. And so I'm going to
Hold
go
on, sis.
over.
Before you go forward, before you go
Okay.
forward, I want to ask you a question. Did you hear me respond to the 66 books? Because I took my mic off mute.
I did hear your response to the 66 books, and then
Okay.
for some reason, you were lost, and then I just kept going.
And I'm going to tell you what happened. My mic just went on mute because I looked up. I said, "Well, wait a minute," and that's why I'm asking you. Okay? So, fam, just know we're having technical difficulties, and to put it plainly, somebody somewhere doesn't want this information obviously to get out. But we do prescribe to the 66, the non-canonized books, Philo, um, Josephus, and some of the other writings we prescribe to, and we have an open mind that it's our people's history, so it's good for us to look at it. Anyway, sis, I'm gonna let you keep going on the road that you're on.
This happens just so the family can be knowing what direction to pray in some form or fashion every week when we're preparing to go on and do the show. And so, this information is vital and we know it. So we're just going to continue to go on. But please be in prayer about that when you remember, right? Just when you remember us, please pray about it because it is an issue and I don't know the source of it, but we know we can talk about that later. Anyway, so I'm going to share my screen to start talking more about this dominion rule codification process that led to the formation of the United States of America. Okay. And so can you see the screen that I just put up, Brother C?
Yes, it's up. There they go again.
All right. They jiggling wires. Huh? All right. So, basically what we're talking about is how did this kingdom get established, right? And so let's look at that. A kingdom is a piece of land that is ruled by a king or queen, who is usually the leader or the head of the state by birth or marriage. A kingdom is often called a monarchy, which means that one person has the supreme authority over the state. Kingdoms We don't call the USA a kingdom. They call it a constitutional republic. Look that up, just in case you thought it was just called a democratic nation. It's a constitutional republic, which means the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, three branches of government, bicameral Congress, and executive, judicial, legislative branch, and all of that stuff that we can cover later on. But it mimics a kingdom, right? Kingdoms are one of the earliest types of societies on earth, dating back thousands of years. Okay, so let's go to this next. Let me see. Let me make that smaller. So kingdoms are usually formed when leaders begin conquering and controlling cities and settlements. Now we're talking about land, right? And claim their right to rule over them. This right can be based on different sources of legitimacy. And I want you guys to be paying attention to those sources of legitimacy as we do this lesson, such as divine will, tradition, law, or consent. For example, some ancient kingdoms, such as Sumer and Egypt, believed that their kings were gods, representatives on earth, and had theocratic kingship. Other kingdoms, such as Rome and China, based their authority on legal codes, one of those being the Code of Hammurabi. I don't even know how to say it. Hammurabi. I don't know if I might be mispronouncing that, right? Hammurabi or something like that.
That's it right there. That's it.
Hammurabi.
Yep.
See, they got us all messed up with this English language, I'll tell you that. And so, like I had mentioned before, in the US, there is a code of public or civil laws, common law, and some additions are based on Roman law. And when we look at the Roman law that has been applied in America, majority of time it has been applied with regards to enslaved persons or slavery. Like I talked to you guys about partis sequitur ventrum, right? And so that is a, annexation or continuation of Roman law into the United States, okay? Based their authority on legal codes and institutions and had imperial kingship. Still, other kingdoms, such as England and France, developed constitutional or parliamentary systems that limited the power of the king by the consent of the people or their representatives. And so that's what America tends to believe about itself. And I told you it's a constitutional republic, just like England and France or other parliamentary systems. We get that. They're called different things, but they still have the same types of practices, right? And so we see right here, kingdoms, when they're establishing themselves or when they have established themselves through settlement, conquering, or conquest, face various challenges and threats to their stability and survival, such as internal rebellion, external invasions, economic crises, and social unrest or cultural diversity. That's one of their challenges or threats. You see that, right? And to overcome these challenges and threats, kingdoms need to have effective strategies and mechanisms to ensure their authority and control over their territories and people. So it's assumed that they're going to be controlling people. I need us to get that fact straight, that it's not like, this lovely Thanksgiving story that they try to share with people, right? I'm sure everybody inside of the earth understands that all of that is a lie, but just in case, I want to reiterate that, right? It wasn't like we're just going to sit down and have a nice conversation, turkey dinner, cranberry sauce, and guess what? I get to control you and your land, right? No, it's not like it. That is a fairy tales and myth, right? So some of these strategies and mechanisms include, and I talk about this a lot, military force, okay? Military force. Kingdoms need to have strong armies and navies to defend their borders and expand their domains and suppress any resistance or opposition. Let's see, you want to chime in right here?
No, I don't want to interrupt your flow. You got it. If I feel the need to jump in, I will, but I just want to let you just flow through the information. I do want to say this. Family, if you're not taking notes, if you don't have a notebook for the information, please take notes because it's some very good information.
Right. And so military force is one of the ways that a kingdom established themselves. Diplomacy, right? So these are the patterns and the practices that I am asking you to pay attention to. Kingdoms need to have good relations with other states and entities to secure alliances, trade agreements, peace treaties, or recognition. And typically, the way that that happens is with other kingdoms that agree with their value system.
I'm going to jump in. I'm going to jump in on this one now. Now you got me riled up now. So
Right.
when I see diplomacy, I'm going to break each portion down. Kingdoms need to have good relations with other nations and entities. Notice there's other nations and entities, probably corporations. I'm going to put it in the now sense to
Yep.
secure alliances, trade agreements. So there's your corporations and your nations. Now, notice when they make these agreements, and you'll see these corporations talking about, oh, we just won a major contract in Belgium, or we just won a major contract after the destruction of Sudan. So we just won a major contract in Sudan, a French company, or a Belgium company, or a company from the Netherlands. Notice that none of those people who win these big contracts look like you or me. Peep that. Anytime the United States hands out big major contracts in the United States, it'll be with people that look like them. Even within our borders, you will very rarely see an Israelite win a large contract. Very rarely. And so these peace treaties is a way for them to also say, okay, we're going to build amongst ourselves and we're going to exploit the people in the other nations. So what I see here is that I see the EU and the United States and also Australia and other European-based countries. This is their code of ethics, so to speak, and them operating on code.
Yeah, and you're right when you say those other entities, okay? Because a kingdom can't be established without resources, correct? And so what we will find is that the United States, through the British monarchy, England, France, European nations, with the exception of the Spaniards who they were fighting at the time, formed through the support of bankers from London who are still own banks to this day. Okay. We know some of those names to be familiar as the Roths and the Rocks. Others are not as familiar unless you trace the family lineage all the way back to who was funding this democracy experiment in the United States. All right. So we're going to go into some of those documents. Now, a kingdom has to have an administration. Okay. Kingdoms need to have effective systems and officials to collect taxes, enforce laws, and provide services and manage resources. That's the things that have to exist for a kingdom to be established and to maintain their authority or rule. The other one being ideology. Okay. So we know that kingdoms need to have a shared set of beliefs, values, or principles that justify their rule and inspire loyalty among their subjects.
Can we go back to the last slide? Can we go back to that last one?
Administration.
Yes, I wanna make a comment on that one. Uh, enforce laws, and what I see missing is create laws, because what they'll typically do is 93 crime bill. They will create and enforce laws specifically for us. And then anytime they have a loophole that we're unaware of, once we become aware of it and we start utilizing, they'll close that loophole. That's all I want to say to that.
Right. And so that's why learning this information, right, is also dangerous. I say that because we were not illiterate. I want people to hear that. We didn't speak English. Okay. We didn't write in English, right? And so a lot of the codes and literacy rules that were surrounding, our ancestors that were here during the time where they were not allowed to read and write, were based off of the fact that it wasn't that we were illiterate. I don't believe they ever wanted us to be English literate, to understand all the things that were being put in place, to be able to read and write and decode and decipher what was actually happening with them, right? And so, with that being said, I don't want the assumption to be based off of, oh, we couldn't read and write. No, we could, but we didn't speak, read, and write English. Okay, and so let's just talk about that in a true and proper sense when people talk about illiteracy, right? Well, what is that history based off of? That history is based off of a kingdom that had a set of common beliefs, that had a set of common values, that had a set of laws, codes, and things that they enacted under a uniform language, which was English. So they like to paint the picture that we've been illiterate from day one. And that's the furthest thing from the truth, right? And so let me go back to the ideology. Again, in that ideology and creating or establishing and maintaining a kingdom, if people don't have a shared set of beliefs or values and principles, they force that, right? Through education, through the instruction, through the enforcement of rules and laws that will tell society how to function. Because if you didn't understand by now that law teaches society how to function, and if you don't function that way, law offers a consequence. Talking about the laws of kingdoms, whether they be right or wicked, it doesn't matter. They have a set of rules for their dominion if they're evil, right? We see that here in the US. Okay. And so laws establish that principle. Let's go into what happened here in the formation of the US. Okay. And I need to bring up a letter, and I'm going to share this tab instead. Yeah, they did call us barbarians on purpose, right? It's a way that, create a narrative to get their buddies and them to look good and us to not, and they can continue to do whatever they do. But the hypocrisy is that the methods and the practices that they acted out on us, we never did to them. So,
well, but if you dehumanize someone, aka calling them barbarians or savages or 3/5 of a man, then once you've done that, it's okay for you to do any manner of ill and will and harm and devastation to them because these entities aren't human. They have it codified, as a
Right.
sister always says, in the Constitution, I believe somewhere, that we're 3/5 of a man. How come they haven't taken that out yet? Go ahead, sis.
All right, and so I wanted to share straight from the Royals Museum, and so I'm going to go to a picture so that I can show you guys what it looks like before I start to share this information from Queen Elizabeth and what was said to establish the U.S. And so, as you can see right here, if you're looking for someone's royal charter, right? You say, well, hey, Christina, what is a royal charter? What does it do? Right? Well, we know that those were charters or, information shared between spaces, granting formal permission from the monarchy through a system of letters, through a system of public laws, private acts, banking, right, to establish things, right? Now, you can ask if they're legal or not. They said they're legal, so it's like we're the boss and we say so, right?
Well, hold on. I have to interrupt you. See, you said it the PC way, and
Right.
in the B1 brigade, and those of us who are out there, y'all know what B1 is. And y'all heard Tariq Nasheed talk. I heard it. I heard it first said from him. I'm white, not say so. Now, you got a lot of nerve and a lot of gall to make laws just because you say so, and then everybody have to abide by it. Well, you didn't ask the people in the land if this was okay for you to make these treaties with another nation that's not even ruling this nation. So the hypocrisy in what they do and the front face that they're moral and correct is a damn lie. You are not moral and you are not correct. I'm done.
You do see that they start out their charters with by the grace of God, right? So I wanted to zoom in on that so that you guys can see that was the way that a lot of these royal charters started out. That is a way that a lot of their letters, were initiated back and forth. But we know based on their acts, they weren't talking about the Most High, right? So, I don't know if their God was based on the Catholic Roman ideology, Greek mythology, whatever, all of the above. But we know based on the fruit that they produced, they were not talking about the Most High, right? But they continued to use the quote unquote grace of God to perpetuate the most evils across the face of the earth, okay? Now, let me go to Queen Elizabeth's letter. All right. So here we have Queen Elizabeth I colonizing America. You see that? The Royals Museum of Greenwich. Okay. It's not a secret, right? How did Walter Raleigh use his influence at court to colonize America? Well, Queen Elizabeth, during the time of 1570 and 1580, she granted permission to two Englishmen to colonize America. Okay. Now, there was a big issue happening with the monarchy. Queen Elizabeth was in a fight with Mary of Scots. She had Mary of Scots executed and began to rule contrary to the Roman Catholic Church. And so that's how they ended up in a feud with the Spaniards. Now, the Spaniards were conquering and settling on South and Central America and doing all of their dirt over there. And Queen Elizabeth, after she killed Mary of Scots, it was like, now I got to one up the Spaniards and I got to show that Protestantism is the way, because we're not going to be bound by the Spaniards. And if we don't start colonizing and settling and land acquiring and doing all of these things, the Spaniards are going to come and take over this small colony. And so that began the quest for the Americas. Okay. So now, as you can see right here, as Spain had laid claim to much of South and Central America, England's attention was directed to the eastern coast of the North America. Sir Humphrey Gilbert led 3 unsuccessful attempts to establish a colony in America, but in 1583 was lost at sea while returning home. Okay. The following year, Elizabeth granted a patent to his half-brother, Walter Raleigh, transferring Gilbert's rights to a large swath of land on America's East Coast. Okay, so you will begin to see a pattern of them going back and forth to what we call Virginia, right? And then you start to see the Virginia Charter. I just showed you a picture of the charter. Riley was a soldier and a poet. He charmed Elizabeth I with his good looks. He didn't look that good to me, but you know what? Hey, that you know, whatever. And wit and manners became one of her favorites during the 1580s. Now, remember, you guys start to see these movies about Queen Elizabeth, and I don't know if Off with Her Head and Alice in Wonderland and all of that is related, but it's kind of interesting that Queen Elizabeth did have the Queen of Scots, Mary Queen of Scots, who was plotting. That's what it says in documents, right? Against Elizabeth, but they were cousins. Let's get that straight. Beheaded. Okay. And then starts to acquire all this power. She acquired, Mary's land, and then has the influence to be able to get the Bank of London and all of these people to go on the venture for the conquest of the Americas to one-up the Spaniards, and share Protestantism abroad. And that's how you get the foundation of America, okay, of what they call the United States of America. And so after the voyage, it starts talking about more after the voyage. If you guys want, I can put this history in the chat, but I would like to move on to some other documents. Brother C, do you have anything that you want to add to the beginning of this conquest?
No, I do not. I'm going to reserve that comment. I was going to say something silly, but no, I don't have anything to add. You can keep moving, sis.
Okay, and so we're going to go to another tab. And I know for some people, this might be, one of those subjects where it's like, let's just, get to the point. Well, there's a lot of stuff happening at one time, right? And so in order to research this, say, for instance, you want to go and research this on your own, you got to understand the Spanish conquest or settlement of South and Central America that are happening simultaneously, right? The English and French colony establishment and fights within the nobility over there. So that's why I bring up all of these in the best way possible so that you understand the big picture of the Americas overall, and then what was happening in the US, right? So the establishment of Middle and Southern English colonies, and I want to zoom in on this a little bit. And all of this could just be done with a word and a charter, okay? So the establishment of Middle and Southern English colonies of North America was encouraged by the earlier English settlements of Jamestown Colony of Virginia. In the South, founded in 1607, and Plymouth Colony, and especially in the Massachusetts Bay Colony in the North, right? So you see those being founded in 1620 and 1630, respectively. And here is a map, right? This map is from 1758, and it's in public domain. So these early colonies not only inspired more English to cross the Atlantic to start a new life in North America, but in the middle colonies, especially those of other nations, the colonies of New England grew primarily from the Massachusetts Bay Colony, following Plymouth's success. Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Hampshire were all developed by religious dissenters, okay? By religious dissenters from Massachusetts Bay, okay? And so the regions would become the middle colonies, were largely controlled by the Dutch until 1664. Okay. While the lands of future southern colonies were inhabited by Native Americans who were displaced as Virginia's tobacco crop and Carolina's rice crop began increasingly lucrative. English colonists steadily purchased or otherwise deprived natives of their land and pushed out the Dutch to take control of the eastern seaboard of North America, which allowed for profitable overseas trade. And the following dates reflect the establishment of English control over colony, even though in the case of middle colonies, European settlement was already established, right? And so you can see here the middle colonies, southern colonies, and then the House of Borges, look, Burgesses, Virginia established, institutionalized, okay, system of slavery. Okay. And so you have all of that history, all of those fights, all of those things that took place for this colonial domination and rule over the land that is called the United States of America, to one up the Spaniards in South and Central America. And all of that is codified in a system of institutionalized codes, policies, but it started as letters, ideas, charters, funding, right? And now you have what leads up to the Constitution, founding father, right? All of those things that were part of the kingdom, per se, of America. So I want to pause right there before we go into that early colonization through, Constitution and founding fathers and the allowance for the European settlements through land grant.
Before you do that, I want to go through and look at some of the comments, if that's okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, I want you to address.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. I want you to look at Darlene Franklin's comment and comment on this comment, please. And I'm going to do some more comments. But Darlene Franklin says, could it be that they figured that we would not understand the Constitution, therefore the Constitution does not pertain to us? How do you respond to that? Or what do you think about that comment or question?
So I believe that the Constitution didn't pertain to us except for the protection of their ability to enslave us and exploit us, right? And so, you have, the Constitution or the founding documents or some of the other documents speak to the status of enslaved persons in that way. I don't believe that they ever thought that we would be able to read and write. I believe that they actually thought they would be able to keep us in a perpetual state of slavery, and illiteracy was a part of that slavery. And like I had mentioned in another time, that if you look at the way that other nations or kingdoms enslaved people, it wasn't in the sense of, we're going to extract everything that this person knows about their identity, including their language, including, just their way of being or worship or anything like that. Even if you look at what happened with Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, right? Names changed after names were changed. They were sought because of their intelligence, because of their skill, because of their level of knowledge. And because of what they could add if they had, succeeded in colonizing them or causing them to assimilate and acculturate, right? That would further enhance their kingdom. But when we look at the way that United States has functioned, they have wanted to strip everything from our way of understanding anything, right, about ourselves and our pasts, because they never intended on us rising to a position of knowledge, further enhancing their kingdom besides forced labor. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, and it also sheds light on, partially it sheds light on why they look at you with such disdain and hatred. But that's more of a spiritual thing, and they don't realize their hatred for us is spiritual. It's coded in their DNA. It's got nothing to do with skin color. It has more to do with we're the book people. So get the skin color thing out of your head. Yes, that's the outward appearance of us, yes. But they hate the spirit that you bring to bear. They hate that you have the Father Spirit inside of you, and that you are actually the chosen people, and they know it. And they know all the wickedry and devilment that they've done to you, that there has to be recompense from that. Whether white evangelicals or the Republicans or the Democrats, reparations, the talk about you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, the talk about you didn't speak English, all of those things will be rectified. I want you to look at this comment, sis. Edom, no matter how you justify your wickedness, you're not going to escape your judgment. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's true. We know, biblically speaking, that they're not going to escape the judgment. It doesn't matter if they believe that they're going to be raptured. It doesn't matter if they believe that they'll just go and colonize another place and they have money to do it, set aside through various methods of, what do they call it? Aid, right? But like, if you look at the aid amounts that other nations have sent, you kind of wonder where is the stuff at. I was looking at aid that was sent to Ukraine, and I was just kind of wondering, why did they need school buses and fire trucks like that, right? Like, I thought they needed emergency assistance, right? I didn't see the use of so many school buses and fire trucks and all of these other things as a method of emergency assistance. I saw that as aid to stockpile, right?
Or a to show, to say that we did this but we really didn't. Because if you're just showing me a picture and I can't physically go to where those things are housed, to me that's just something for somebody's they're doing mental gymnastics and playing with people's mind with graphics, i.e. a picture.
Right. I wouldn't understand where a country that is devastated by a disaster or war would then begin to house all of the things that they had sent in aid. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah, I saw something that was interesting. I should have kept a screenshot of it. This is gonna blow someone's. This is gonna blow mine. Okay, so I saw some graphics. I'll call them that, where they had said that they had captured a ship. It was either Iranian or Iraqi ship full of guns and ammunition, and they had them all laid out. The thing looked like it took up miles, rows of like 10 of them. Looked like it went on forever. These images of these guns and ammo stacked up, right? So they said they intercepted this, but they send it to. But they're gonna, instead of keeping it, they're gonna give it to the Ukraine. That to me, that sound, not only does it sound fishy as hell, it sounds crazy as hell. But this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a pathological liar who can't tell the truth. If they knew who they know, and they know who they have in their hands right now, but they want to prolong the charade, because if they could get away with it, they would. But they're professional liars. They have no moral code about them.
No, and they don't
Actually, Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and they're not the moral compass either, right? And so, what I want to ask, and people can put their responses in the chat, and I would love to see what those responses would be, and then I want to answer some more of the former comments. What kind of kingdom were they establishing in the United States of America? Okay, so if the goal was to establish a kingdom, and a democratic nation is not going to suffice as an answer, right? What kind of kingdom were they trying to establish here in the United States of America? Does anybody want to put their answer in the chat? I want to know your thoughts before I go into this next document, right? What kind of kingdom were they trying to establish? So I see, Brother C, did you want me to address the comment on the screen?
Yeah, go ahead and address that. Please, if you would. I'll read it. Up next says these decrees were actually written spells, witchcraft declaring their authority and dominion through their gods. Go ahead, sis.
So the English language, and I'm sure that you all have seen this probably on other social media platforms about the English language and its words being one of cursing. And so what we look at is how some languages are romance languages and the way that they flow. And then when we look at the English language, we see a lot of negatives or pejoratives, right? And words canceling out each other for some reason, or either, we have the word bless, right? And if you were to put separate the B from less, you would think, well, why is blessing to be less, right? I know oftentimes, Brother C, and I've told you this, people will say good morning to me and I say happy new day, right? Because the thought of mourning is not something that I want to do. And then, people use the concept of 7 days being a week, right? Why do we want to be weak? Earnings, an urn is something that you put ashes in. And so, yeah, all the way around, the English language and anything that it implies or applies is going to be a system of spells and almost cursing because of the way that the language is formed, the way that the language speaks in a pejorative sense.
But and so with that thought, it's almost as if, okay, when the book says that the earth is pretty much wicked, right? And that the wicked are in rule. It's not by accident that we speak and we know and we use the most damnable language in the history of man, I believe. And I hate the English language. I tell my wife all the time, the theirs, the they are's, the thy, they, and then re, their over there. It's the same thing, but then they have 3 or 4 ways of saying the same thing. It's like, that's stupid. So why don't you
Yes,
just come up with a different name for it, a different word
right.
for it?
Why is there a language that intentionally doesn't make sense if you break it down phonetically, right?
Exactly.
Like if we were just to use, say for instance, somebody got hooked on phonics. Okay, let's just say that. Mm-hmm. A lot of the words in the English language don't all break down phonetically. So you have to memorize, and this is on purpose, right? What's called sight words. We memorize the majority of the words we need to be able to read. And by the time that a child is 7 years old, they've memorized about 500 English sight words, be able to break down the ones that do break down phonetically, and then also have memorized a whole bunch of codes and symbols and ciphers. Okay.
Yeah, and with the thought that we weren't stupid. We just didn't know English.
Mm-hmm.
And English is a very stupid language. It's almost like, okay, you take a logical thinking entity slash Israelite, and then you lobotomize them with something that's totally illogical. Now, here's the thing that irks me about these white evangelicals and white Christianity. They have the gall and the idea that they, the United States, brought the Bible to everyone over the earth. Let that sink in.
And so, well, actually, that's a good segue to what I was going to talk about, right? And when everyone put in their answers, what kind of kingdom was the attempt to be established in the U.S.? We look at the formation and the establishment and the expansion of Christendom. Okay. So let me put that in the chat for those of you that have not. Actually, I'm going to bring that up.
Good. Throw that question out. Throw that question out so that the family can answer. And fam, there's no. Just answer the question on how you interpret it. Excuse me.
They answered. They answered the question.
Oh, they did. Okay, my bad. My bad.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. And so, if you guys can hear. Okay. So when I asked the question, what type of kingdom were they trying to establish in the U.S. and where the British monarchy and all of these other European, monarchies or whatever they want to call themselves, system of, I call them pagans, right? Were attempting to further and establish Christendom. Okay. But I like what this says about Christendom. And as you can see, and can you see the tab that I'm sharing?
Yes.
Okay. So I want you guys to see that this is the Catholic Encyclopedia. Okay. I go straight to the sources that people say it out their own mouth. Okay. What it is. Right. And so as you can see right here, in its wider sense, this term is used to describe the part of the world which is inhabited by Christians, as Germany in the Middle Ages was the country inhabited by Germans. The word will be taken in this quantitative sense in the article Religions in Comparing the Extent of Christendom with that of paganism or of Islam. Okay, so this is the Catholic Encyclopedia. That doesn't mean we agree with everything that they're going to say. I just want you to see it out of the horse's mouth. Okay, here is the thing that I want to show you. There is a narrower sense in which Christendom stands for polity as well as religion. Remember, I talked about codification along with domination, right? Polity, right? We see that in the use of society and rules for society to function, code, laws, right? Governments and government structures alongside of their religious beliefs for a nation as well as for a people. So Christendom in this sense was an ideal which inspired and dignified many centuries of history and which has not altogether lost its power over the minds of men. Okay. And so you see, it goes on to say the foundations of a Christian polity are to be found in the traditions of Jewish theocracy, softened and broadened by the Christian cosmopolitanism and the completeness in which Christian principles were applied to the whole of life, in the aloofness of the Christian communities from the world around them, and the hierarchical organizations of the clergy. The conflict between the new religion and the Roman Empire was due partly to the very thoroughness of the Christian system, and it naturally emphasized the distinction between this new society and the old state. Thus, when Constantine proclaimed the peace of the church, he might also be described as signing a treaty between two powers. From the peace to the time of the barbarian inroads into the West. There's that term barbarian. Okay. Christendom was all but contemporaneous with the Roman Empire. And it might be thought that the ideal of a Christian nation was then at least realized. The legal privileges which were granted to the bishops from the first, and which tended to increase the protection given to the churches and the property of the clergy, and the principle admitted by the emperors that questions of faith were to be freely decided by the bishops, all these concessions seem to show that the empire had become positively as well as negatively Christian. And I'm going to stop right there because we talked about Mary, the Queen of Scots, and Queen Elizabeth I having that battle. Queen of Scots gets beheaded, and then Queen Elizabeth starts battling with the Spaniards, and all of this had some connection to Protestantism and the Catholic Church. So they went around conquering, settling, doing whatever they did to set up systems and new kingdoms and expansions of their kingdoms through this feud, right? And so I just wanted you guys to be able to see that there's a lot more here, that talks about some of the ways. I find it interesting when I read these kind of documents that some of the same documents in our founding, some of the same words and phrases in our founding documents can be found in some of these documents from St. Augustine and Constantinople and all of these places that believe they're setting up Christendom, a Christian kingdom. But I want to ask you, can you have a system where people value patriotism first and God second? That's going to last. Now, they can say that the U.S., and I want to stop right here because I know that we're going to be at time, and I don't want to go into the European settlement documents with Benjamin Franklin. We're going to have to wait. Can you establish a righteous kingdom that supports and rewards patriotism first and then God next? But that's what you have here in the U.S., and that's what you see under Christendom, where you have the polity and the code worshipped, and then we'll think about God, right? And then they call that a Christian nation. So
well, I say it is a Christian nation.
Right.
I say it is, and I'm going to explain that. And I'm going to start from where I always say, and y'all know me. You know how I speak and you pretty much know what I'm going to say. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it off the rip. If I look at the Bible, I don't see no Christians in there. You cannot find me one Christian. Give me their name, rank, and serial number, where they are, what chapter they in, and when they was calling themselves that. Okay, that's number one. Because how I understand this term, it's a term, not a term of endearment, but it was used as a term of hatefulness against our ancestors. That's number one. Number two, the whole construct of that document of what you just showed, this thing called Christianity, from its inception was set up for them.
Yep.
It was set up for those people. So when you hear out and don't get mad now when you hear Afrocentrists or someone say Christianity is the white man's religion. Well, it is. We didn't create that. The brothers from Benayah Israel and them, they brought out what happened with Spain, and they did a beautiful job. Our ancestors wasn't calling themselves Christians. That was a byword that they called us at that time. They've taken on this moniker and they've said, okay, we're going to build a whole make-believe trick bag box full of poisonous strychnine, and we're going to use this to conquer people, basically. So when someone says the U.S. is a Christian nation, yes, it is. But that goes with the understanding that, to me, Christianity is evil as hell and wicked as hell. because it was constructed to conquer. It's got nothing to do with the book at all. Their tenets have nothing to do with the book. Their church fathers were damnable teachers who taught what they thought was real on things that they said that they didn't agree on, and the church fathers never agreed on anything. Point blank. So I'm gonna leave that right there. Fam, what do y'all think about that?
Right. Well, that's why I started with the foundations, right? Discussing if the foundations be corrupt, what can the righteous do, right? Because I wanted to break down these foundations, right? I wanted to be able to explain it in a way that we understand clearly the establishment of the US and who was all involved. A lot of times, we talk as if there weren't other people groups involved, right? And it was just the people that we see. But no, there was a lot of other people involved, monies that were given to support Queen Elizabeth I. I'm going to go into that when we have our time next time. And, bankers and those companies that they still have set up today. I looked up on the list of the 15 bankers that supported Queen Elizabeth I, and those names are still linked to banking industries today.
So our charge is going to be this: when we see that list, we're going to play death and destruction over those list of entities and their families and their children. According to Psalms 109. Those banking institutions and those banking companies and all that who benefited off our backs, they all need to be destroyed. Period. Point blank. What I want to do, sis, is I want to put up some of these comments, and I just want to put them up and speak to the individuals that put them up, starting with my good brother Yash. Hey, and I shalommed everybody I didn't say shalom verbally to you, but I did throw your name up and I did throw your comment up as a signal that I was shaloming you. But I wanted the sister to be able to put the information out. Yashadik says, Revelation 6:2, and I saw and beheld a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bowl, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. That sounds like somebody to me. That sounds like somebody that not only had the sword, but they had that bastard religion of Christianity with them. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Let's see here. Cindy Carr says, no, y'all first, we don't need patriotism. We never needed that. And see, somebody put it in the chat. I'm going to keep going down. But somebody put it in the chat that we don't serve the same Father. That's why you should get out of the habit of calling your enemy your brother, because he is not your brother. And don't call him the stranger neither, because he's not that. You can't identify the stranger. You can barely identify who you are. How you going to try to identify which is a friend or foe? You might as well just approach everybody that they're a foe. Save your brother. Sister Bo,
and that's
Bo
why
said,
they tried to. That's why they're so quick to tell us to turn the other cheek, right? And I always use the response, "Show me how you did it first." Okay. Or
no, because they'll never do that. They'll never do that. Matter of fact, the first thing, when something happened to them, the first thing that entered their mind, and the Fews are a classic example of this. How can we enact revenge or vengeance for what happened to our people? That's the first thing that pops into their mind. Not, okay, let's just sit back and wait. Let's just understand the issue. No. We're gonna go exact vengeance. Habakkuk 2:12. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood and establishes a city by iniquity. What nation did that? Matter of fact, the whole of Europe and what you consider European countries now, and where they went and conquered and where they still control, is that as well. But the king culprit, what I call the king culprit, the police of the earth, the United States of America, is definitely the poster child for Habakkuk 2:12. Let's keep rocking down. Phantom Warrior says, I stopped assuming that we love the same father long ago. Say the name of your entity, then I'll see your fruit. My father is my father, and that's what I call him. They call him the G term or the L term, and he's not hearing them. We don't have the same father. We don't. Their father is Hashatan. How can I say that? Their fruit over the last 400 years proves that. You can prep all you want, but you cannot escape what has happened, the historical part of it. And if you do believe in the book, then you would know that you are held responsible for what your ancestors did. So you can't say, well, my ancestors did slavery. Okay, that's fine. However, because they did slavery and they were created to do that, by the way, and they did their job, but they did more above and beyond, which is why the book says pour for her double.
But how many people learn about Elizabeth I, the Queen of Scots, and the role of the British monarchy and London banks and all of that in the formation of the United States of America?
I don't think that any of us have really gone in and studied that, which is why having this history under your belt and the knowledge of it is something that should be taught to your children, because they're going to get a firm understanding of how we actually got here.
Right. And who's all involved.
And who the players are. See, we have a very cursory top level knowledge that doesn't really go into, it doesn't get deep, and here's what I like to do. I don't like to claim that I'm a professional over everything or anything at all. What I like to do is I like to stay in my lane. I like to stay what I call my office, right? If there's are individuals such as yourself that are proficient in these things, then we need to listen to these individuals who are proficient and get the wisdom, knowledge, and game that they're handing out for free, mind you.
Right.
For free in this case, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're getting some good wisdom and knowledge here that should be shared with the family. Now, here's what I'm going to say about Israel. This is an indictment on Israel. I'm going to indict the whole house right now. The whole house, by and large, and we're getting out of this, the whole house, by and large, though, is only attracted to train wrecks. Attracted to who shot John, what's happening that's bad on the earth, so that I can watch it and ingest it. Most of the time, the whole house doesn't want to hear something that's going to edify them and build them up. Save the people in the chat. I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about the nation as a whole. And I pray that we get out of that mindset to where the only thing we're attracted to is train wrecks. We need to be more scholarly in terms of how we approach things, more business-like in how we approach things in general. Like our life, for instance. We need to be a little bit more professional. We've been living this life and we've been living it haphazardly. Now, mind you that we just now came out of our punishment. So it's going to take time. But the renewing of your mind doesn't mean that you stick to what's happening with Cardi B and them, right? Or you're worried about what the rappers are doing. You worried about somebody else's wallet instead of doing working with the talents that the Father given you so that you could produce something for the nation and yourself. I'm always banging on y'all about that. Y'all probably tired of me banging on, but I'm going to keep banging on that because you know why? That's my office. My office is to not only encourage you, but to check you like an older brother. Hey, you know what? You need to get busy with what you're supposed to be doing, fam. Sister, you need to get busy with what you're doing. Brother, you need to get busy. Young star, you need to be on your job. The Father gave you that to do. He didn't get everybody YouTube. I don't never wanted to be on YouTube, but I got sense enough to know that, hey, you know what? If I can help somebody out there and motivate them to get on their job. Somewhere in the book, somebody get that precept where it says faith without works is dead. And then get the other precept, what you're going to be judged out of. You're not going to be judged of how you can memorize all 50 Cent's lyrics. Well, you might be judged. That might be judged against you, though, in certain circles. But that's a different conversation altogether.
But where do you know? And I gotta say this: if we don't understand the way that our enemy has gained the upper hand over us, we're bound to continue to try to mimic their ways, right? Instead of moving far away from their ways. And I say that, let me give an example. Sometimes when I am advising moms that want to pull their children out of the public school, you say that you call it what you call it, Brother C. You call it the public pool.
Public pool? So, yeah, I stole that from Pastor Dell. Peace be upon him. I'm not peace be upon him. Peace and blessings to the brother. I stole that from him. I'll give credit where credit is due. Pastor Dell, I stole that from that brother.
What they'll say is, you know what, I want to homeschool, and then what they'll do is set up the public school system in their home. Well, how's that going to work? You were trying to escape that. You can't mimic what you were trying to escape, right? And so, knowing what it is good when you're not trying to replicate it, right? Understanding every single facet. I saw somebody put in the chat, I think it was one of the brethren said, Phantom Warrior said, it wasn't Bank of America to get back at Italy, right? That's something that we need to research and understand, okay? Because I don't know if the family here remembers, in Exodus 18 was set up a system of governance. And a lot of these fake kingdoms have tried to re-establish themselves, because if you ask me, Rome fell and now we got the USA. So I mean, these nations, they fall and try to rise in a different way, and we know the source of their power. But if you look at the way Moshe set up governance structures according to righteousness, then we would be looking at what can we take over and do here now, right? What can
Wait a minute. Hold on. I want you to say that slowly, please.
So for context, we're talking about Exodus 18. What happens in Exodus 18? Moses' father-in-law asked him, what is it that you're doing? Right? Because the people were coming to him from morning all the way till evening, and Moshe would stand there and issue righteous judgments. When they had difficulties, they would come so that Moshe would judge between them, and that he would also make known the statutes of the Most High in his law, right? So his father-in-law said to him, yeah, this is the thing that you do by standing here from morning until evening to do this is not good, because these people are going to wear you out, right? It's too many of them for you to be able to do that. And so then Moshe says, in order to teach them the statutes and laws, and in the way that they must work, I have to set up a system of governance, okay? A system of governance, so that there would be order, because we know that the Most High is not the author of confusion, right? You talked about that, Brother C, in the beginning. And in that, people were taught how to judge the other people and how they should settle matters. And so that gives us a framework for knowing what to do, where we're at now, right? Not to be idle, because we're surrounded by wicked people and in a land of our captivity. But how are we taking over something? If somebody understands banking, start understanding how to set up, you know, those kinds of funds. And I don't know that much about investments and all of that. I'm just throwing an example out there. Me, I understand about the laws and policies and procedures, regulations, and codes, right? That's my lane, right? And so what I utilize that for is to go and extract our children from the hand of the wicked. Okay. Someone else might understand technology, right? And be able to say, you know what, this is what I'm going to do for our people right now, right? And so that's basically what I was breaking down, and I said that a lot.
And I say salat to that because that's exactly where my heart is. And I'm going to say this over the open air, which is I probably would never normally do this, but I'm going to say this. If you are thinking about doing something, talking to Israel and Israel only, whatever it is that you're talking about doing, do not approach it with the mindset that you're going to be a worker in that. Okay? Because you're more than just a worker. Your ancestors were brilliant beyond even your own understanding. The main issue with Israelites is that we had never been fully capitalized to do any venture. Some ventures now don't even need capitalization, just need you to be diligent and persistent and plan out everything and execute that plan. You don't need millions of dollars today. And with where technology is in certain aspects, you don't need armies of people now. I say all that to say, if the Father has given you some IPs, intellectual properties, your ideas, it's just IP is just your ideas, that you bring them, you manifest them, and bring them to bear for the kingdom. It's your duty to do that. It's your task, whatever task that He's given you. Yeah, I'm beating a dead horse, so to speak. But I want to encourage you that the Father, the Father has given you tasks to do. I know that He's given me tasks to do. But what is my mindset, though, behind these tasks? My mindset is not to be a worker, just to be, okay, I want to learn this skill set, and then that's what I do with it. Yeah, I work for ABCXYZ. No, absolutely not. If you're developing a skill set, your mindset should be, I want to take over that industry. That sounds crazy as hell, doesn't it? Most people, most of us can't even rub two nickels together, and yet your mindset should be, I want to take over something. Not just to be a worker, not just to be a participant, not just to be in second place, not to be an also ran or a has been or used to was it. So I'm going to leave that at that because, quite frankly, that conversation is typically reserved for behind the scenes.
Our brother Joseph did it. I mean, if you look at the position that he was elevated to in helping his people, right? We think about ways that we can be building while we battle now, right? And I'm reminded of Proverb 29:2 that says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice.
That's right.
When a wicked man rules, the people groan.
Let me stop right there. Let me stop you right there. Hold on a second. We should have put the precept up. Okay, so now if real Israel was in the land, wouldn't there be peace? Y'all gonna get that precept. Wouldn't there be peace on this earth if Israel, real Israel, was in the land? That precept's with the precept that you just brought, sis. And I also want to say Those of you who are in the chat, who are making great comments, all of you, and shalom to my brother Kadar. Peace and blessings to you, brother. Hope you're well. Those of you that are in the comment section making comments, I'll put your comment up. We're not going to cover all of them, but I'd like to acknowledge everybody that's in the comment section. You guys have outdone yourselves this day, and I really appreciate you. You guys have outdone yourselves. Typically, y'all be dropping a lot of wisdom and knowledge, and you did it today, and I really appreciate it. You guys are a great people. Do you know that? Put a 7 up if you know that you're a great people. I want to see everybody put 7s up. Kingdom principles. That's right. Kingdom principles. Your kingdom principle, one of the kingdom principles is operating under a code. What code do you operate under? Is your mindset to build up the nation of Israel? Or is your mindset to wait and say, okay, let's wait until we're out of here so that I can put my feet up? Don't you know that if you leave America, that wherever you go, you're going to have to work? I'm the age that I am now, and I do not plan on retiring. Why? Because I know that I'm going to have to work at my age. And guess what? I actually want to work. So you youngsters talking about when you get 35, you want to retire. When you get 40, you want to retire. 45, you want to retire. No, I'm an old head talking about, yeah, I look forward to working at the age 250. How's that? How about that? So, brother C, you gonna be on the earth at 250? Yeah, I plan on it. I want to still be working. I don't want to be retired. If that makes sense.
I like what Natalie said. Taking business seminar classes right now to prepare her mindset, right? Because we know that when we were forced into enslavement, it wasn't that we were illiterate. I'll say that again, right? But through years of the legalized illiteracy, whatever you want to call it, black code, slave codes, Jim Crow, whatever you want to call it, that prohibited us from being able to read and write, we have to begin to shift our mindsets to one that we're not fully dependent on this nation and in a perpetual state of begging them. I didn't start this path as a person that taught people, but as I went along the way, I recognized that we had been kept out of the understanding of rules, regulations, laws, codes, policies, procedures that this nation fully relies on. And not only were we kept out, but we were receiving consequences by that same system of codification. So I knew we had to understand that. And so I began start out with little lessons on teaching people their rights. I didn't say, be glad that you're in captivity. I said, know who is holding you captive and how their system of codification is impacting you, right? We talk about shifting the mentality. We talk about not, mimicking or replicating what they've done, but taking over through righteousness, taking over through a true form of executing just judgment, right? And praying the prayer that, Abba Yah, as I go into this place, I ask that you would take the wicked that sits in high places in this place, because I have to pray that prayer often going into city council buildings and federal buildings and all of that. Like whatever wickedness has established itself in high places here, I pray that you depose of them. And I pray that the people that I talk to have the ability to be able to hear what I am saying about setting our children free.
Your children aren't free if you're homeschooling them under this same system. I want that to resonate in everybody's mind. Let that resonate in your mind. So here's what I'm going to say. Since I'm going to give you the last words before I do that, I'm going to say to the panel, and I'm going to say to the folks in the chat, I appreciate all of the comments, every single one of them. You guys were on fire today. When you point your family back to this particular show today, this particular conversation, point them, tell them to turn on the live chat and listen to the live chat, watch the live chat, and read what's happening in the live chat. All praises to the Father for the family that participates in the chat. I thank you for that, because you guys are awesome, all of you, every single one of you. You guys do some great work in the chat, and I truly appreciate the interaction, and I truly appreciate the comments. So, sis, I'm gonna let you have the last words. We're going on 2 hours. We said we'll rock out for 2, and we'll be back to continue. If it takes us 3 shows, 4 shows, 8 shows to get through all of the information that the sister has, we'll do that. We may do another KC this Wednesday on current events. I don't know. We may not. But just know that Salt of the Earth is watching and reading everything. We're watching everything that's going on in the earth, and you, family, should be encouraged. You should be encouraged that the Father called you the apple of his eye. You should be thanking him that although you went through Christianity, but you no longer call yourself a Christian, and you're not part of Christendom, whitedom. The white man's religion. Yes, I said it. Christianity is the white man's religion. And if you a so-called Negro, if you're a so-called Israelite, stop acting like you're a Christian and you're an Israelite at the same time. And stop talking about that people of color mess. Get that out your mind. Start operating righteously with your brothers and sisters that's around you. You know what to do. The law was not written for you to look at it and say, okay, I'll do that later. I'll treat my brother right and my sister right when we get to the wilderness. No, bunk that. Start that out. You start today. And with those IPs that the Father gave you, start today. Yup. Start today so you can start get busy to build the kingdom. Because when we get to wherever that place is, I'm going to say it straight up. You're not going to be sitting on your ass doing nothing. So sis, I'm going to leave them with that. You go ahead and close out, sis.
So first, I want to just say hi to my parents that are in the chat. I'm so grateful that I'm able to do this. And it becomes an intergenerational exchange because a lot of times while I'm doing these lives, my parents are in the chat. Dr. Gary Christopher is my father. And so I'm honored that he is here with us while we're doing this. The next thing I want to say is pray for wisdom daily and teach it to your children, right? I gave the example of having the children read a proverb of the day. Like if today is 10:15, you'll have them read Proverbs 15. Tomorrow you'll have them read Proverbs 16, so that wisdom is infused in them when they have to make a decision or have to think of what to do next. It's automatic. It becomes automatic, and the word of God doesn't return void, but it accomplishes everything that he sent it to accomplish. And so putting that wisdom month after month, it doesn't matter that you're doing it September, October, November, December 15th, you're reading Proverbs 15. You do that year after year, and I tell you what, the children are going to be wise. Okay. And then the second thing I want to just encourage you with the fact that wisdom is vindicated by all her children. And so I am glad to see the responses in the chat, because I know that we are wise and we have the ability to continue to move forward, use our talents, not waste them, to build while we battle here in the land of our captivity. So I appreciate you all. Peace and blessings to you all. Shalom. Until next time.
I want to lastly say honor to the parent, Dr. Gary Christopher. Shalom, brother. Peace and blessings to you. And look forward to you being on again. And this has been another Salt of the Earth production. You know, y'all was dropping a lot of good comments, but guess what? Y'all still not saved.